2. Hello, and welcome, one and all, once again to the Snide Show. I am your host for today, Cornelius Edward Snyder, otherwise known as Corey the Curator, and I'm joined with my writing partner, cousin, BFF. You know him, you love him, you've seen him here and in the periphery. If we're live as NCAA college football, that's wrong. That should have been changed. I don't know why it didn't change. Adam, tell everyone who you are and all about yourself and your personal life.
I'm AC. I have kidney failure. I'm surviving. I'm a survivor. You can't say that.
He's going to make it. You're going to make it.
But also, I have 3 children, which you will periodically hear interject into anything and everything being said and done.
And that's fine, because this is a homebrew type situation. We're hanging out at home. We're not live up in the club or nothing. This isn't some fancy interview. This is like we're kicking it old school, Will Ferrell style. And that's because, we're not going to let anything hold us back. We're out here, and we're outrageous, right?
Outrageous!
Woo! I'm outrageous. I don't know if I can do that voice anymore. But anyway, so and we'll get more into the Kidney Chronicles on a future episode. We're actually going to be getting into that stuff because, part of this whole thing is, not just the art and the business of all of this, but the expression and, putting ourselves out there and showing the world our scars and, our abdomen scars and whatnot. Because I might be popping this bitch out, and being like, hey, hello, here you go. And then I fall down at the door. I didn't put enough ice in the styrofoam. Adam's calling an emergency ambulance. That might happen.
What we get for using butter knives!
Yeah, man, but Becca hides the sharp stuff from me, so I have no choice. So, and speaking of gore and carnage and dark humor and just everything that's wonderful in the world is still dark as hell. We're both big Marvel zombies. We have been for a long time. Adam more than myself. And are we seeing a resurgence of the Marvel universe? Is it back? Are we back?
So that's a complicated one, I think. Considering I think they're changing the entirety of the continuity from the Kang Dynasty and they're switching it over to the Doom Squad.
Right.
It would have. So that's really hard to tell because, well, with what we're about to get into, it doesn't so much shift the gear.
Yeah, and I like the way they're doing it, because they kind of tried to do it with What If and She-Hulk and just not as well received, but just, again, breaking the fourth wall and being like, look, guys, we got to do something here. We got to shift gears, we got to bring, some new life into all of this, but at the same time, respect what's come before, also show the warts of what's come before, which I love that about this movie. Deadpool and Wolverine, if you guys don't already know, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. And if you're watching the stream rather than listening, you'll see we've got Mary Puggins here. I think that's her name.
Mary Puggins. Good old cool.
A version of Dogpool. We've got Nice Pool, which is for some reason the only Deadpool that doesn't regenerate. I guess he's used his beautiful face to get out of all of his problems. He's never had to actually draw those guns. Those beautiful, the gold plated 50 caliber. It was like from GoldenEye or some shit. I don't know. Yeah, man. And then in the middle here, folks, we've got a new addition to the Deadpool universe. We've got Snide Pool.
Snide pool, nice.
Look at this guy. Look at this thing. Oh my god. Get a good look at that.
Snide pool, the yellow, the green, the
Yeah,
fitting.
yeah. It just indiscriminate use of ChatGPT's Dolly 3 to make a snide version of the Deadpool. And that must be you in that costume, AC, because I do not have that figure.
It must be. I think I could pull that off, don't you?
Dude, it looks like it could be you in that costume right there. For real. And if you zoom real close, it's like the texture of the Zentai suit is like it's like kind of lemony, and I love it. It added the thing of like the detail of the sneakers, and it which
Yeah.
kind of gives it that kick-ass vibe.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe that I was feeling off of it, like a kick-ass Spider-Man.
Yeah. I couldn't get the eyes to do what I wanted them to do. I was trying to do the small white slits like Deadpool, and then like a green diamond kind of border around each eye, like how he's got like the kind of black diamonds. Um,
Right.
but I couldn't get the robot to do that. I tried a little Photoshop, it wasn't great. But so, that's what we got right there. It's kind of got the bug eyes, the bug eyes.
But it fits. It works.
Mm-hmm. It's the best it could come up with. Sometimes it does this shit. It's like the sword's outside of the hand, or the sword's part of the hand, or the hilt's longer than the blade.
Yeah, and that wouldn't make sense.
Mm-mm. I don't like those pictures. They're yucky. But this one was decent. This was, I mean, it even almost looks like the, the swords all make sense. It's great. It's supposed to be like downtown Blacksburg, but there's like a lot of Asian writing, so I don't, I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
what.
well, it's by the Saki house. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, I loved the movie. I loved it for what it was. I've seen weird complaints that like there's too much not enough plot, like too many jokes, or that the jokes don't land for them or something.
No, I don't see that being any kind of issue. Uh, the only thing I will say about the movie is it doesn't actually expand anything on the MCU itself.
Hmm.
And I mean, but the thing is, if you're going into the movie looking for that, yeah, you're not going to find that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing to keep in mind about Deadpool in general. If you're going into it for it to expand into the MCU, that is not what this movie was for.
Exactly, and that is what I've seen, and that's along the lines of the complaints that I've seen, that it doesn't really add anything. But they do even joke about that in the movie, about like not always having to add something. And also, again, yeah, Deadpool is like Mad Magazine, or like back in the day they had it was like the parody What If, but it was What The, and they have Marvel Magazine and stuff, and it was like their version of Mad Magazine at the time, where they would just make fun of and joke on like the Marvel universe. That's like where we saw the duck got his start in one of those magazines.
Howard.
Yeah, Howard. Yeah, Howard the Duck got his start in one of those magazines. So it's and it was nice, having seen Loki before, and that introduced the TVA and some of those TVA characters. But yeah, like I guess for someone who didn't watch those, that would be more interesting, or I don't know. I mean, I've seen also the arguments of like, how can anyone be expected to watch this that hasn't watched everything? And it's like, much like Family Guy, they might get 40% of the jokes. I mean, like, who off who every time they watch every episode of Family Guy gets every single joke, and you'd have to know so much pop culture and references and stuff. It's that's why you have a show or a movie with a high joke per minute thing, because it's like this is here to entertain everybody, and they might not work for everybody all the time, but it's going to work for everybody some of the time.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, some
Exactly.
of the people some of the time. So yeah, I love the jokes. I mean, you know, uh, some of it was like, I guess, predictable, just where so much of the character before, but it's like I liked that. I liked, like, and then sometimes it would subvert expectations. I mean, there's so many things in this movie that I don't know how the people in the theater, because I was in a theater where it was like maybe a tenth full,
Right.
it was a decent, but it's been out for like a few days now, and I don't know how there weren't more people laughing. I mean, a lot of the times, like, I'd be laughing and I'd hear someone else in the theater just sigh, and it's like, what did you come here for? What did you think this was?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like my question is how many people read Deadpool comics to have a lot of the reactions that I've seen. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people were going into it with the wrong expectations. Like, you've got to understand a huge portion of what this film was meant to do was to shut the door on several franchises
Yeah.
that never got to see an end of their own.
Right.
And on the other aspect of that, it is a fan service film. There's
Yeah.
no way around it. It is a fan service film that is pretty much solely there just to say, hey, these two characters are going to be in the MCU at some point.
Yeah, and there may be other ones, as like with Cavill, they hinted he doesn't always look like Hugh Jackman. He's always kind of this guy, but yeah, it is, the criticism, as always. I don't totally get. While I understand some of it, I don't get it necessarily, because it's just
Right,
so, like, what do you what are you mad about? Um,
right,
I it's a wonderful movie. I liked, I did see people like, oh, there weren't enough X-Men, and maybe that's a fair criticism, but I mean, again, they do kind of, he jokes at that, like, he's, because he said, you lied to me, Disney, you said I get the budget to do the whole fucking thing, and like, and that's joking at the fact that, like, he thought he was going to have more X-Men than he had
right,
access to. um
exactly. And, I think it's things like that that make the Deadpool universe like more true to the comics, I
mhm,
think.
mhm.
Because, I follow the Deadpool comics. None of them actually, if you read them, none of them really fit into any one particular continuity.
Yeah.
He is his own thing. So for this particular movie, I mean, if you want to talk about how the movies fit together or how they fit into the MCU, sure, the other two movies probably do make more sense in that aspect.
Hmm.
But this movie fits more so with what Deadpool is and would be about than any of the other ones so far.
Yes, yeah, I would have to agree with that, because he had more access. He was able to fuck with the Hulk. He was able to fuck with, Blade, and oh my God, it was just all so, it was delicious, man. The whole fucking movie was just like, oh my God, you're doing it. Like, tears running down my face. I just couldn't stop laughing, grinning ear to ear. I leaned forward in my seat, and again, going back to the criticism, people like, oh, the X-23 was just there to do the scene to kind of carry him through the Wolverine arc. So, people were like saying, like, oh, they added to Deadpool, but they didn't necessarily add anything to Wolverine. That.
Well, they didn't though, but that, I mean, but that it's not that wasn't the point. At least that's what I thought. The one thing, and this is my only critique, that really irked me a little bit
Mm-hmm.
was the way that they did the Deadpool storyline for the arcing. It was really muddy and somewhat confusing. Like, I didn't understand fully like what was going on in the Deadpool universe prior to him going and starting to look for the Wolverine. All that got
Yeah.
real muddy.
Yes,
They
yes,
didn't
yes.
make it clear cut. And I mean, even with Deadpool, there should have been some kind of clear cut something with Wade.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't explain why Vanessa and him are broken up. They didn't explain like where did Cable and who else? There was someone else that was like missing in the last movie. Um
Russell, the kid.
yeah. So it's like what happened to them? Like yeah. Yeah, they and he even explicitly states these are the only 9 important people to me. Like, and it's like, whoa. I thought weren't there like a few more? There were a few more, right? There were like a few more people. Yeah, it was as if a movie happened in between that we didn't see, you know.
Right. And maybe they'll revisit it or
Hmm.
something. And that might have been part of the point. But that was realistically, that's the only part that I did not actually like about it.
Right.
But it wasn't enough for me to say that I did not like the movie. No, I absolutely loved the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the thing of it adding really nothing to Wolverine's arc, just kind of retreading. It's like that. I don't bump into that. The logic of like what happened before all of this, I didn't bump into that. Like nothing really bumped into me. It took other people pointing it out for me to be, yeah, I guess. But I mean, not a. To I guess it wasn't important, and yeah, to your point, maybe we will get like an extended cut. They like to do that. They like to do the extended cut, the shortened cut. I also felt like they definitely. I mean, again, to one of your points earlier, left it open. Like they're coming back to this. Like this is like the whole thing is like this is setting up for the next phase where they're going to be more important. um God, yeah, and then they did it very well. And I feel like they added more to Wolverine in so much as showing that no matter what universe he's in, he is always eventually this hero, and that's what the anchor being thing is, which I've seen people trying to say it's the same as a Nexus being, and I don't see that. A Nexus being is more of like they always have like a specific power. Like there's always a person with the role, but the anchor being is more it's I think more important than that in a way. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm off base here, but I felt like it was like kind of a different thing in a way.
Yeah, no, I get that.
That's hard for me to articulate.
Um, yeah, no, I think if you don't really feel that, it's kind of going to be hard to understand what you mean. I guess realistically, the way to put that is, as far as the Wolverine goes, without that iteration of Logan, well, first of all, that universe would have never flourished at all.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about, just the universe itself, but that even as a franchise, if it weren't for his portrayal of Wolverine, it would have never taken off anywhere. Even the ones that failed, most of them failed because he wasn't in them.
Right. It's more about a specific character than it is about a role. Like an anchor being is more of like that specific kind of like set of molecules performing that task, whereas like a nexus being is more like about a role and is yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Um yeah, but it's also like comic books. It's fucking, it's like whatever it needs to. Yeah, and people are like, oh, it's Deus Ex Machina. It's sorry, my cat's wanting some attention now too. Um, it's it happens just because it needs to, but
Mhm.
it does because it's comic books. It's not meant to be Christopher Nolan, you know? I mean, Christopher Nolan helped legitimize these characters in a way on the, with Batman and stuff, but that's not what people should expect these movies to be. Um, these heady, super sophisticated cinema, it's
Right.
comic books. It's little funny books. So, yeah, I totally think, I don't, again, that stuff doesn't bump up against me. But more of what I like. I like they did. What were your favorite parts? What were your highlights? Like, what as a Deadpool fan did you see in this movie that just like made you, need to wear your brown pants?
Need to wear my brown pants. Well, honestly, it's the fact that no matter how you want to slice it, Ryan Reynolds is 100% Deadpool incarnate. Um, way even when he subtly breaks the fourth wall into just forthright breaking the fourth wall, it's so well done that you forget that he's one acting and knows what he's doing,
Mhm.
and it's not just Wade Wilson Deadpool.
And no one else could do it. No, and yeah, he's the real anchor being, I think, of this transition between Fox and Disney, because yeah, no, you think of any, and I guess it's the whole God's perfect idiot thing, right? Where it's like anyone else trying to do these things, having studio money, in like what he did to get Deadpool on the map was illegal. Like when he had those scripts commissioned and then had the test footage made and then leaked everything to get everything bankrolled, like that's like Wall Street insider trading. You know what I'm saying? And
So whoopie doodles.
yeah, yeah, very much like I don't know who did that, and it's like no, we know it was, and now we do know it was him, but it doesn't matter because he doesn't have the same bosses and stuff. But it's like what he did, like, wasn't you're not supposed to do that at all. But he did it to get the shit made, and if he didn't, it would have been another fucking Blade 4, Superman Flyby, Elektra 2, Fantastic Four 3. It would have been this thing that just never fucking happened. It would have been a gambit. It would have been a gambit.
It would have been a gambit. Yep.
He would have been pruned before he ever even was able to make a movie. But he cheated it, and that's kind of, I think, part of what this movie is about in a way. He was the executive he was up against at that point, or string of executives, whoever his bosses were at that time, the shot callers. They were the paradox with the Ripper, who gave him a chance, but it wasn't really going to be a chance. It was a trick. And in the end, gets his comeuppance. He gets to come over, but guess what? He's bringing his friend who he thought he was done to, and even again, like biting the hand that's feeding him, being like, "Oh, Disney promised this, but actually we didn't get to do that, guys. So guess what? I'm calling him out." Um, yeah. So he's this person who, if anyone else tried any of these things, he would not have gotten away with it. He wouldn't have, but he's handsome and funny and smart and likable enough that he can fucking leak his way and break contracts and, do these hard negotiations and then just stick the landing too. That's the other thing, is stick the landing. I mean, I'm sure other people have connived their way into getting movies made and it didn't go as well. But it's such a perfect thing that no one else could do it. Uh,
Absolutely not. And that I think of all the things that went into this movie, that being like the pinnacle part of it is realistically the best part of it. Because honestly, without like all of that rolled in, I don't think he would have gotten like Henry Cavill to come in and play an iteration of Wolverine, or all the people he did get to cameo in this movie, such as like Wesley Snipes coming back as Blade, or
Who they didn't
Elektra.
get along. They, from what I saw, like they didn't get along. They were not friends. So it's like, what?
Yeah, but he has a way of doing that kind of thing, and honestly, it worked. I think honestly, if this was tried any other way with any other person, it wouldn't have worked.
No. Which is why it is just a perfect idiocy, and I'm looking forward to seeing more, and they've teased some of that, but so some more of our favorite things about it. I love to, as a kid who had the Daredevil VHS, and I watched it till that tape burnt out, and I fucking, got the Elektra VHS, and I had the biggest crush on Jennifer Garner, and I wanted to be Ben Affleck, and that's part of what got me on freaking, View Askew and all that stuff. I loved the little, that was just amazing, seeing Jennifer Garner come back, and the little stab, the little jab at Ben where he's like, oh, where's Daredevil? And she's like, he's dead. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And they're like, don't worry about
Yeah.
it. Like, he didn't want to come for the movie, so who gives a shit?
Yeah, fuck him.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh man, she got to fuck him in an uncomfortable place.
Oh my.
You remember that? The back of a Volkswagen.
The back of a Volkswagen. Uncomfortable place.
Yeah.
Oh, Ben Affleck.
Ah, yeah. Hope he's
Of course,
doing
he turned
well.
to DC, and that didn't work out too well for him either. Poor guy.
When he did what?
When he turned tail and ran to DC.
Yeah. I mean, he gave it a good shot, I will say. I mean, he's one of my favorite. Anyway, so moving on. The different X-Men covers, Wolverine being crucified, which did you see that really PO'd the Christians?
I did not, but I am also not surprised.
They didn't like that, which of course they didn't like the comic book back in the day either. They don't like Marvel Jesus, and there's a big push of these trolls that are like, boycott Deadpool 3 because it's blasphemous. And I'm just like, did you not watch the first two? Like, I love that these were like Deadpool fans, and this movie is where they drew the line.
Oopsie doo. Can't be doing that.
Like, I mean, like, isn't it just ridiculous?
It's absolutely ridiculous. That's what I'm saying anyway. Like, I mean, it's an X, first of all. And it's a whole completely
But the Marvel Jesus too, where he's like, I'm Marvel Jesus. He did say it a lot. He did say it a lot.
Yeah, well, he knew what he was doing there. He was poking to see who was going to poke back. Somebody poked back.
And they were people who were Deadpool fans. It's just I mean, I guess I can't think of anything as blasphemous, but I mean, they referenced sodomy in the previous Deadpools.
He did.
Isn't that like a thing they don't like?
Well. You can pick and choose.
Sodomy.
Pick and choose. All these different dudes.
Yeah. That was good. Oh, speaking of the NSYNC the NSYNC, the whole like he did the whole music video with
I know.
the, I mean, of course, I mean, how is that not the first thing we talked about? But I mean, there's so much in this movie. The adamantium skeletal remains that he uses as 206 or 207 maybe
Hmm.
weapons. Uh, it's just
That was an epic scene with the ribs, the fingers, the oh my god, and the nut shots that he took with those bones. Oh my gosh, that was wild.
yeah, man. And then again, going back to sodomy, the way he ended it with the claws, exemplifying that those take a lot of skill and that like you generally can't just willy-nilly slash all around and punch him into anything, and he gets stuck in the two different guys.
I know, and he had to break off and like, ah,
Oh my god. Oh my god. It was just so funny. So and just that is more hardcore than I mean that alone was more hardcore than anything I thought that like anything they would have done with Deadpool after he gets to Disney. I mean if I told you 2 years ago they're going to open up Deadpool 3 with Deadpool using Logan's remains as weapons, and he's going to indulge in, as he put it, light necrophilia with these with his parts, you'd be like, I'll believe it when I see it.
if this is backed by Disney, thumbs up, everybody.
Yeah, the mouse is into it. And just I bought.
Come inside. It's fun inside.
Uh, oh my god.
Oh, what? Dog.
Ugh. It gave me the willies.
Don't it?
Gave me the willies. Um, so yeah. Um, I mean, this isn't a comprehensive breakdown or anything, folks. This is just a shining endorsement, something that we both love, and just it's great to see it continuing to go. They're going to do the Avengers versus Wolverine, or no, I'm sorry, Avengers versus X-Men. Um, hopefully there we get like a proper Hulk versus Wolverine, schmasturbations session,
Oh
and
my. Oh, kind of like what Wade was doing with those fake claws.
well,
Hmm.
what he said he did with the Hulk hands. He said he did with the Hulk hands.
Was it the Hulk hands?
Yeah, yeah. He said with the Hulk hands later on. He said he was, smash revenge. Um, yeah. It's man. I can't wait for this to come out on streaming and stuff. Like, it's the Deadpool movies. A lot of Marvel movies they don't get a lot of like, I'll watch it like maybe 3 times and then like never again. Kind of like Star Wars. Star Wars. I'll try every few years to do like a whole like I'll watch them all, but then I just remember so much as I'm watching them that it's like I'll watch like the first 30 minutes and be like, I remember what happened. Um, and uh, Deadpool though, I can just leave on in the background, and like it's just I notice new things every time. Um, and again, it makes me excited that they're going to bring that kind of excitement into this X-Men phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because they've already said we're leaving the multiverse saga and we're moving into the mutant saga, and this was kind of the bridge.
Which is perfect.
Yeah, and it means a lot of recasts, but maybe not some recasts, and this movie is a way of kind of explaining that away. And I like
Right.
to, and you saw this happen with Loki, but this movie kind of did punctuate this for the folks that don't watch the shows, that there is one sacred timeline, but a timeline itself is cluster of a multiverse. It's like a galaxy of a multiverse. Like there are still slight variations around this timeline, but it's when things branch too far from the timeline that it creates incursions and things start to fall in on themselves, at least if it's not like a naturally occurring multiverse. And like now we've got Loki, who in the Norse tellings is a god of storytelling, and like so he's bringing that to this, like so he's a storyteller, but he's chaotic, so of course his multiverse is going to be less organized than Kang's. You know, Kang had this other multiverse before, and it like was a loop of a war. It was a war that always happened at the beginning and end of time. But Loki stopped this war from looping again, and became the harbinger of the multiverse, at least for now. At least for now. And again, it's a way for them to explain how chaotic things are, but they did it in a much less funny way than this movie did.
Right. Right.
Well, I still love that show, but it's more of a drama. Like if you're looking for more of those Thor 2 vibes, you know. I mean, there was some humor in it, but it was definitely more serious than this was.
Right.
Oh my god, especially with the their own version of the Council of Kangs, the Deadpool Corps.
Mm-hmm.
Is that from the comics?
The Deadpool Corps?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that pre-existed this.
Okay. I didn't know if that was just a bunch of versions of... So then what's the story on the one with the floating head, the one with the flying head?
Okay, so that one is from the Marvel Zombies. That basically he gets around because he gets decapitated and he's floating around with one of those propeller hatted things.
Yeah. It's adorable. It's adorable. And Lady Deadpool, of course, played by none other than Blake Lively, who got two other references in this movie. That's what happens when you get to make your own movie franchise. You can have your hot babe of a wife cameo in your multi-million-dollar movies, and you can make fun of her in the other scenes, I guess. It was awesome. It was so awesome. I didn't know if that was going to be, because there were like some rumors around that Taylor Swift was going to be Dazzler in this. I was hoping to see that. That would have been cool. There were some other rumors that didn't happen. All the rumors I read wound up happening. I liked how they brought in Professor X's twin, vestigial evil twin who's not really a twin but is actually like a demon or something. I don't know her fucking story. It looks crazy, but basically I love too that it's kind of the same story as in Venture Brothers, Rusty's brother, J. Jonah Jameson, but it's like it's different, of course, but it's like a similar story where it's like a twin that he tried to kill but it didn't work, came back later to haunt him.
Yep.
And she's wearing, sorry, what were you saying?
That's been a while since I've seen that.
Yeah.
But it is, and yeah, I don't actually know much of the Nova story either, or if it's one that's actually explained at any point.
I think it's one that in the comics it's like newer, it's past like when we like would read these things, but was kind of like an old storyline that they added more to fleshed it out. But I love how she's wearing Professor Xavier's, like, what he wears in the comics before he gets paralyzed. It's like that safari suit thing. I love her version of his powers, which, as she explains, are more physical. Like, it's more telekinetic, but she can also do the telepathic thing through, like, touching inside of your brain and, like, reading those neurons, or, like, somehow making those neurons communicate with her nerves to like, absorb your memories and stuff. But then she can also implant memories. She can incept you and fuck you up, and, like, fuck with your traumas and make them worse. Ugh. And it was just so gross.
It was you at the very end when she sticks her fingers through that dude's head and just drags him like a fucking rag doll.
That was awesome. That was so awesome. Oh, yeah, that's amazing. And who knows if she'll come back? We don't see Alioth eat her. And my headcanon is Alioth also didn't eat X-23, because that would make me so freaking sad. In that moment where I was like, X-23, just, like, jump up in that portal behind them. just jump. You can jump really high, girl. You just jump really high up in that portal. Oh, no, you let the portal close without X-23. What did you do? Why'd you leave it like that? It's like...
No, but luckily.
I had one conversation with her at a campfire.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
I am not a father.
Well, that's fair. But that's not cool, though.
But yeah, then we didn't see. So she could come back. Any of those people could come back. And again, that's the beauty of this kind of storytelling. One we know is not coming back, and I think we're all fine with, is Chris Evans is Johnny Storm. Definitely not coming back.
He tripped over the blanket in the middle of the floor that he was trying to drag. No, he had the blanket in his hands and he was dragging it and tripped over it. He fell into it, so I know he's fine. He was just crying like that as he tripped. And your hedgehog asking the daddy's room. There's no way that's possible. Oh, yes, it is. Well, I'll talk about it when I'm done talking about the Do you really need that blanket, though? No. I didn't figure. All right. Sorry.
A blanket emergency, folks. That was a blanket emergency. We had a blanket emergency for a moment. But it's all better now. Babies in their blankets, my goodness. But yeah, so what were you saying? Johnny Storm's definitely not coming back.
Oh no, I would imagine he's retired.
Or at least Chris Evans is.
His version, yes, definitely.
He's retired. Oh man. But yeah. So do you have any predictions?
I have some ideas of what I think could potentially happen. Just from some conversations that I've had. It feels like this particular universe could fit into like the X-Men 97 universe. 5 iteration. And I cannot take credit for that because this is definitely from, like I said, another conversation that I had. Mm-hmm. From their point, I can definitely see where it does fit in, where we're going to have, an MCU Wolverine. We're going to have the XX-23, but we're also going to have Old Man Logan, which is where we're going to see, like, Hugh Jackman continue to push through.
Yeah, until he's 90. And that's when we'll
Hmm.
see the real old man Logan, which we got a taste of with his shotgun. Yeah, and you did touch on something that I saw is some of the confusion. They never tell us what universe Deadpool's main universe is. Um, he travels with his watch over to the sacred timeline. Um, it's implied that through his travels he's learned about them and it decides he wants to join them or whatever. We see that scene. His base universe, though, and again, he could have learned about Wolverine and all that stuff through traveling around the multiverse, the same way it's implied he learned about the Avengers. But he, he knows about Wolverine, obviously, at some point. But if his time is after Wolverine has died, after Logan, that doesn't line up with him working on X Force with Wolverine or having known him from the military, but also he we've seen the McAvoy X-Men in the background. For some reason there isn't or doesn't seem to be a Wolverine in his universe he can work with, even though he might know about him. So either he's dead or has already told him to F off, which that's what I think probably happened. I think it's something like the main X-Men universe that we've seen, one of these that's been reset by Days of Future Past. Colossus
So
is...
that's what I was about to say. So in Days of Futures Past, that resets everything.
Yeah.
You realize that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, because basically from Days of Future Past on is a completely different universe from anything and everything that happens in basically the first three X-Men movies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, four. Technically, Origins also falls into that other universe.
Yeah, Origin stuff happens like early enough in the timeline that some of those events happened at least.
No, it did not. Because all that stuff that happened in Days of Futures Past happened in the 60s, whereas everything that happened in Origins and the Wolverine happened in the 70s and 80s.
So McAvoy's not already paralyzed in Days of Future Past?
Correct.
Huh. Yeah, so it's something adjacent where maybe some of these events happened, but maybe some of them didn't, or a lot of them didn't. So yeah, and I think they intentionally leave a lot of that blind to us. But I mean, again, Colossus in Deadpool 2, yeah, I mean, well, we've seen Colossus talk about a couple of times about how he's like a reject from the X-Men, right? But does Days of Future Past even reset all of that? Like the first two
So
Deadpools?
at least for the Wolverine and those X-Men, so basically from the moment in Days of Future Past where the Wolverine wakes up onward is the only stuff that falls into the continuity at that point on. So from the end of Days of Futures Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix, that would be technically the universe we would be in now. Everything that happened prior to that would not have happened.
Right. Okay. I see. So yeah, it is like a basic X-Men universe. Yeah.
So the one thing about that does bother me, and has always pretty much bothered me, is so when Wolverine has all that rebar put through him and he's thrown in the river and they fish him out and all that. So the Wolverine that travels back in time, he should no longer exist because the future that he lived in never happened, right? But he lives his life up to that point where he wakes up in that bed and then all of a sudden he remembers everything.
Yeah.
But why?
Yeah.
If it didn't happen, why does he remember it?
Yeah, and there are similar issues with Charles Xavier and the fact that like he blew up and he came back, but actually that was his consciousness in another guy's body, and somehow he's creating a projection to make it look like he's Charles Xavier, but he's actually this other guy, and it's like what? Like, it's just like such a convoluted like it's like how? Like he's not that he needs Cerebro to do something that sophisticated. They've shown he's but yeah, and so there are little things like that throughout the universe that are just again why they're wiping things and why Deadpool doesn't ultimately matter, and he's able to poke fun at all of these things. But we're nerds and we do still want to make sense of this stuff and know at least where we're going to start in this other universe, because the TVA says they're going to fold Deadpool in. They're going to fold this Wolverine from this other bunk ass timeline that they're going to prune, and he's going to be able to come here, and they're going to go off into the MCU where question mark,
Yeah, exactly.
And it's all going to be folded in somehow, and we'll see the next Deadpool once they screw all that up.
Yeah, and I'm sure that will most likely happen. Hopefully, it won't take a 20-year run to see that happen, but
Sure, yeah. I mean, they're going to screw some things up, in some ways, and he's going to cameo in other things, he's going to have to,
well, the other thing that I do like to always express, and of course this is 100% just my opinion,
Mhm.
but when you're going from like one medium to another one, especially one that is 50, 60, 70 years old into a new era, I mean, things are not going to be the same. And I don't expect them to be perfect or to be the same. So I do honestly expect there to be changes. I expect things to be different. I don't expect it to be exactly the same. But I mean, honestly, who really does want that? I mean,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, if that's what you want, that's what you expect, then you're always going to punch holes in everything, and you're never going to be happy with any of it.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I think people screw this up too, or they just have what I see as like a rotten perspective and just not a productive one, where like these inconsistencies somehow make the movie worse, or count against the movie as a whole. And it's like, if there are enough of them, I mean, they definitely matter to an extent, but a good movie should not be broken by bad logic. A good movie is a good movie. I mean, again, especially something like this that's meant to be satire. It's going to be off the chain. It's not going to have the
I
best
get what
plot.
you say.
But the thing is, when you let these things get in the way of a good movie, it just really does yourself a disservice. And so, and again, comic books they're comics. They're little disposable, fun events, experiences that you shouldn't have to think hard about. They're not there to teach lessons. They're not there to give you a science lesson. And getting back around to the point I was initially going to make is that if you expect all these consistencies, like expect a lot of exposition, which is just boring. Like you don't want a movie to be telling you how it works as you go along. You know, there's no
Right.
point. There's no point in that. Like it's boring.
Right, there's no spontaneity or any of and I understand wanting to follow close to the source material, but that's not the argument that I'm hearing. What I hear a lot as far as the argument goes is it's not exactly the same. It's not exactly the same. But why do you want it to be exactly the same?
Yeah, yeah.
You already know that. Where's what I don't understand how that is exciting or fun.
Yeah, I mean, if you want exactly the same, go
Then go
watch
back and do it.
go watch the CW comic book shows and see how that worked out for them, because they tried really hard with the budget that they were given, and it's great, but it's like a soap opera. It's like and it's not, I mean, it can be funny, it can be fun at times. A lot of times it's a lot of exposition, a lot of like 20 episodes, and like five of them are exciting because the rest of them are explaining to you how to get. And that was a complaint of comic books back in the day. A lot of these comic books that they're adapting, they would get shit at the time because it'd be this amazing art and you're covering it up with word balloons and little boxes of text, like all around these
Exactly.
characters. And it's like, just let the story be, let the art be. We don't need to every little bit explained to us. It doesn't all need to line up on a perfect, timeline. Go, if you're really into that, folks, go get into history. Go get into history, or like, become a writer, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say about that.
Well, I guess that's it then.
All right, folks. Well, yeah, we just wanted to put this on the books because it's a cool thing that we're excited about. AC, I can't wait for you to watch it on a high quality device. You want to tell the folks how you watched it?
Oh, my dad has TV box from which he pays for, so it's not illegal.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes. The channels come from like India, and so we watched it on one of those, and the quality was much lower than what you would see in the theater.
Yeah, he watched it on 360p, folks. He watched it 360. He was watching on a pocket dish. I don't know if you guys remember pocket dishes. Yeah, so you didn't get to see the beautiful innards of Chris Evans's Johnny Storm liquefied. Oh
I
man.
hope you think that I don't speak sign language. You're just gonna have to wait till I'm done.
But the internet.
It's turned off.
I'm on. I'm still got the internet. I need to go to the
We're
TV.
using a little bit more internet, and we'll get you your internet.
Michael.
Um, but yeah, so it's yeah, it's definitely deserving of the big screen thing. I watched it at Radford Theater. Support your local theaters, folks. They don't have the reclining seats in the open bar, but you know what? You don't need it. You don't need it. Because it's you focus on the movie. It's great. Yeah. So that's it, folks. Check out Deadpool. Check out Snide Pool coming to a theater near you at some point in the future. A parody of a parody. It's been told unwatchable. It's been said it's anyway, folks. Adam, you got anything else to add to this?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, folks, stay snide.
Peace.